In this video, we're going to focus on how we can have this overarching bar covering this group of data sets here, and then we have another overarching bar here covering this group of data sets here. So let's start to look how we can create this specific item. So let's start to look how to place two bars behind other group bars in Chartjs. To do this, first of all, we need to have our border template, which you can find here on chartjs3.com getting started. There's a specific link, which you can find as well in the description box. So once you're on here, just copy this chunk of code, which is our border template. Copy this. If you want to understand this code, please check out this video. It explains it all. So we're going to paste this in there, cut this out, and put that title in here. Save, refresh. There we are. Now what I want to do is I want to maximize the bar by saying here 80%, save, refresh. So the next thing what I want to do here is basically adding up a few more data sets. So what I'm going to do here is in total I will add up, let's say we want to have 3 items within a bar, and then we have the overarching bar around there. So we have total of 8 data sets. So that's number 2, comma, number 3, comma, number 4, comma, number 5, comma, number 6, comma, number 7, comma, number 8. Alright, so we have them here. What I will do is, this is the total, or let's say a total cost. I'll make it like that. And this will be the total, so I will remove everything else. Then we have here another one here, and this could be one of the colors. So I'm just going to grab a color here, just get this one and put it in here, put it in there, and say this one's 0.2, or we maybe have to even put it on 1 to make it solid. Anyway, we'll see it later on, it doesn't matter. Next, same story here, remove all the others, and we could basically even remove the brackets, doesn't matter so much. So we say here 0.2, and this should be, if I'm not mistaken, the purple, and this one should be the orange color. So once we have here final one here, that will be this one. So we have 3 items in the first or in the second group basically. So let's save that, say here green, save, and refresh. Alright, interesting. We are getting some of the responses here, that is all correct, and of course the others still need to be fine-tuned. So what I'm going to do here for the yellow one, I'll make this the yellow item, 0.2. Then I will say this will be the blue item, and then later on we still need another color that we have to make up for our overarching item. So finally here's the red one. I'll just remove everything here. Save this, refresh. Now we have everything except for the first one, and let's make the first one black as well. And then maybe give it a slightly different color, or maybe a grayish color. So we say here 100, 100, 100, 100, 100, and 100. Save, refresh. Alright, so there's a clear difference between this one and that one. That's the most important one. So now we've done this, what I want to do is basically convert the items into a group. So what I'm going to say here, basically I'm going to say here group. And this will be false, because this is not part of the group, because this one will be overarching on the group number 1, and this one will be overarching on group number 2. So we have that one, we say this, and the next one we say what we want to do is the order. So we want to draw this after everything else. So we say here order number 1, and then let's save that and refresh. You can see here now we're expanding it, and it looks a bit weird for now, but bear with me. Finally, what I want to do here, that's the final one, is the category percentage to reduce the size of it. We're going to say 0.4. That will be more than enough, but you will probably have to play around with this. This is very important. So you can see here, and I'm not sure if you're seeing it, if I maybe change the colors here to a solid, you will see here it's somewhere there. It is behind, so it's already in the right position, or it is behind, but it's not in the correct position. But don't worry about that, we're going to work on this. And well, alright, let's put that back. And next, what I want to do here, this here is very important. We're going to copy this and put it on the next overarching item, which is the total cost here, I guess. You say your comma, this will be false, but this will be order number 2. And the reason why order number 2 is because it's the second one that needs to be drawn. So we don't want to draw it at the same time with the first one, because later on we want to separate them. So now we have this here, and what I need to do here with this, and this is going to be important, you will have to play around with these numbers later on. So it will not be 100% perfect, but this is the best what I can do so far. So I'm going to say here this should be fine, and then I think probably I'm going to give this a solid color. That makes more sense. But I'm going to make sure that all of these are basically positioned correctly. You have the border with 1, comma, and all of those will be identical, except for the category represented this, that one. So now we get it more narrow, so that looks good. But what we want to do now is we want to split up these 3 here, moving it all to the left side, and this one split up, moving it all to the right side. So what we're going to do here, we have all of this here. This works. Well, first of all, let's start to convert all of those into a solid color, and I realize I need to give these proper names. This should be yellow, this will be blue, and that blue one will be a solid blue. Here will be a solid red color. Alright, we have that. Is the purple sales, that one is correct. Orange sales, and finally we have the total cost, that we will leave that one as a transparent color. So this looks all quite decent, but of course we have to now work on this. So what I'm going to do here is a comma. I'm going to say plugins, and then with the plugins, what I'm going to do here, bracket, and this bracket will be, let's call this a double group. And I'm going to give it a name double group because this is really designed suitable for 2 groups only, and the narrower it becomes, or the smaller the space you have, the harder it becomes, by the way. So you have to really consider this. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say a double group plugin block constant this, oh, only once, double group equals ID, although I won't be using the ID, comma, and then I'm going to say here before data sets draw. And the reason why before data sets draw is because we want to reposition the bars before we draw them. Once we draw them, we cannot reposition them anymore. So that's very important. So it's a chart, arcs, plugin, options, although we won't be using those last 2, or the latter 2 won't be necessary. So now what I want to do is I want to do here a simple object destructuring. If you don't know object destructuring, please check out my video, Chartjs Understanding Object Destructuring, which you can find as well in the description box. This equals chart, and then what we need here, we probably won't need much, but we'll need a few items. The data will probably be important. CTX might be. The chart area is important because we need to measure the size. And then we probably need here the top, bottom, left, right, and then width and height. So we have all of those here. We probably won't be needing all of them, but most important is here the width. So now what we need to do, and this is very important, we need to calculate basically the space that we have. And what is our space? This point all the way to that point. This is the space. So how do we calculate this? This point to here is what we call a chart area, and specifically the bottom, or sorry, not even the bottom, but the width of the chart area. And the reason why the width, because we're excluding this part here. Anyway, watch that video. By the way, if you want to understand chart area, there's another video as well in the description box. Very important as well, understanding chart area for Chartjs. So now what we're going to do here is basically calculate this point to there, and this is what we call our segment. So how do we calculate this? Well, constant, and then what I'm going to say here, I will give this a name of segment, and this segment equals quite simply the width. We have the width here, and then what I want to do is I want to divide this by the amount of labels we have. These labels, that's why we have this shorthand here, is basically the reference to here all above. Let me go here, data.labels. So we can see here we have that data.labels. Once we do this, if I do a console log, you will see that the segment And what I want to do as well is let's get the width as well, so you have them both and you understand what I'm doing here. Save, refresh, open up developer tab, and you can see here, alright, interesting. Segment is width divided by data labels. Alright, so you can see here I get a NaN, which just means basically not a number. That's the variable response. Well, the reason why is because we have here the data labels, which is an array. And I want to have basically the length of this, and I forgot to put in here the comment dot length. Once we do this, then we have here the number value of how many arrays we have, or how many array items there are, divided by the width. Save this, refresh. Now we see here the width is 105 pixels approximately. So that would mean that this center here, or sorry, this point to here is 105 pixels. So the center of that would be divided by 2 basically. And that's where it is positioned. So what I can do now is if I just get the quarters, so I need to have this sliced in 4 pieces. You do this, and then it's approximately 26 pixels, one segment here. Of course, if I move this, it will probably change, as you can see here. Anyway, that doesn't matter. But the most important part is we know what's the width here. And once we know this, and what I want to do is I want to have the quarter here and the 75%, because I want to move all of those here. So we have the space in the center, and we move the other group to the right side at 75% of that segment. So to do this, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to now say here a new constant, and I'm going to give this the name quarter, and basically that will be the segment divided by 4. Very straightforward, a quarter of that segment. So now we have this. What I need to do next, and this is very important because we must work with absolute numbers that are not a reference to anywhere else, or else we will get trouble later on. So what I need to do here is we're going to say here constant, and let's say here we want to get the coordinates, and specifically the coordinates of x. And how do we get them? Well, let me just show you. So we're going to use a built-in Chartjs function. It's called chart.getDataSetMeta, which is a reference to the coordinates of our data sets, and specifically data set index number 0 right now. And the reason why we can get this, because you can see, we know that number 0, which is basically the overarching bar, is already positioned in the center. So this is basically a core part that we need to know. We need to know what is the center, and not the center of the segment here, like what we calculate here, but the segment relative to every specific segment here, because they are all different coordinates. And all I need to know is the x coordinate of this. So what I'm going to do here, this we say with dot, and then we can say here data. And then I'm going to do here a dot map. So what does this really do? A map method creates a new array with these numbers. And I need this because I cannot use a for each. I can use a for each, but the for each is a reference to a value, and it will be recalculated. And that is the reason why we see it so many times, because every time we hover, it will reactivate. And if we do just a value, or whatever this reference is, +1, it will increase consistently. So this is very important, and maybe later on I'll just show you a sample so you understand what I'm talking about. So we have this. Then what I'm going to say here, shorthand for the reference point of data point, comma index. Although I'm not sure if we need the index. And then we're going to say here a function arrow expression, and all I want to do here, make sure we have the curly braces in there, and all I want to do here is basically a reference, or sorry, a return value, and the return value will give us basically the data point dot y. And if I do this, I do now a console log, and we just say here the sorry, I'm getting the y, and in my mind I'm thinking about another coordinates should be x, of course, and I'm going to show you later on y. Let's save this. You can see here we get all of these coordinates nicely, and these are just the exact coordinates. And if you will do this, this is the same methodology. If you would say here dot this is the then index 0, because we need to get the point, and then like this, for example, we will get a specific one, which is 84, which is correct. Alright, so now we get this, and even if you want to have them all, that's no problem. You can just do it like this, save, and you can get here the items, which is exactly the same numbers as what we have in our core x now, our x coordinates. So now this x coordinate works and we have the numbers. Now what I want to do is I want to move the group here. So how do we do this? Well, first of all, I'm going to create enter, and then in here we're going to say the following. We're going to grab this, because this is basically the reference of what is the current value of index number 0. So we're going to grab this, all of that, and then I'm going to say here, and we don't do map anymore, no, because now I can change the original values of the x coordinates. We say here just for each. So we go into the data for each, and I'm going to say here again the data point comma index, and we should have of course 2 parentheses in that case, function arrow expression, curly braces. Alright, so in here what I want to do is the following. I'm going to say here our data point dot x will be equal to what exactly, and this is the tricky one. We have to really check here, and for me as well, I need to play around with this a little bit, so bear with me. So what I want to do is I want to push it here. So what we could say here, for example, just quite simple, just say here, let's say a quarter. Let's see wherever this will position the item. If I save this, refresh, you can see here now we're going to quarter and we push it now all here. But of course, this is not correct because each of those bars are moving. Basically, every bar is now moving on top of each other and they're stacking on top of each other. I don't want this. So what I want to do is, I want to say here, well, let's see here how we're going to do this. Let's do here a segment, which is the number 1. If I save this, refresh, alright, it does something, but it gets, of course, the coordinates here. But we have to calculate that. You might see here, if I do segment, normally it should be here, but if I should say here plus left, I should see it moving like that. There you are. And why in the center here? Because that's the standard positioning of it, and the left here was this point here. So we have those two, but of course the segment must be multiplied by an index number. Why? Because we have different index numbers. So if I save this now and refresh, you can see here now we're moving a bit more in the right position. But of course, if you look at this very carefully, we're still slicing a part of it. So what we could do here is probably move another quarter here. So what we can do here is quite simply say here plus a quarter that we have calculated here. Save that, refresh, there we are. So I feel that this is a quite proper position. Now, next what I want to do is I want to move the other overarching bar. So how do I do this? Because this is index number 0. So let's go up here. Remember, this is index 0. Where are we? Index 0 is the total sales or the overarching bar, and then the final one is index number 7, because we have 8 data sets here, and an array starts with 0, so number 7, index number 7 is that specific value. So what I'm going to do is copy this, enter, say here number 7, and then let's save that and see what happens. So you can see now what happens, but I'm not satisfied because as you can see here, it's just stacks on top of this. I want to move it here. Remember what I said with the quarter, we have quarter, 1 quarter, and then the other one would be 75%, which is basically a quarter multiplied by 3. So we're going to say here, multiply by 3. So once we save this, refresh, there we are. So I guess we are on the right track, but let's double check by seeing if we have any space between here by hiding all of these other items. There we are. So we have a space between there, and it starts to look quite nice. Alright, let's refresh this. Now what I need to do is I need to do these others here, and here we need to work with a tiny formula to play around with that, and this requires just a bit more playing around. Is quite tricky as well. Anyway, so we have this here, and I realized maybe we could do a very simple function here to loop through the others, but it's alright for now. I'm going to simplify this just by showing you one by one so you have a clear view, and then you can always refactor it into your own liking to make it a bit more efficient. So for me, I'm going to show you then basically not 100% the refactored way, but anyway, if you understand this, refactoring is easier. So what I'm going to do here, we have this one. If I save this, and let's see how that works. There we are, we get this, but here's the thing. If we have these other items as well in here, they probably will be on top of each other. So let's try that again. Number 2, save, And you can see here now, the blue one is basically on top of the red bar. So what I need to do here is probably play around with it. And for this, because you have 3 items, we have to calculate. I'm going to use a formula of 3. Basically, if we have 3 items, how much pixels do I want to have between there? So maybe, let's see, because this is the center. So I need to move away from the center, from this point. So I have a negative here. So let's say we do a negative, let's see here, a negative 5. I'm not sure if that's good. Alright, you can see here that it's 2 less. Maybe we have a negative 6. I guess a negative 9 would be sufficient. And you have to play around with this, and this is very important because once you get smaller with your chart, you might need to reduce that amount of pixel size. It's just because of my screen size is slightly bigger, so that's why you have to play around with that. So that's up to you in figuring out the formula. So I will leave that one like as it is, but then I will do another one, and this one will not be a negative 9. No, this will be a positive 9. If I save that, refresh, now you can see here, and maybe to make it a bit more fancy, what I want to do here in the options, 2 things. After the options, say here border, radius, 4 pixels, save. And next what I want to do, I want to just change a bit of the values because I feel like the values are just too large and it just blocks everything. So I say here 3, 3, 3, make that nicely. So I'm just going to copy that and do this for all of our other values. So once we have done that one, another one here for the purple and yellow, what I think for that one, we should just make this 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, and one more time 6. Copy this, put that in there, and put that in there. Save, refresh. Alright, so that looks slightly better. So now what I want to do, of course, is, and as you can see here, as we move around, you can see the sizes might be not always perfect. Anyway, doesn't matter. Next, what I want to do, I want to move this one here. So how do we do that? Go down here, and then basically we could just grab all of these formulas here. We're going to say here, this will be number 4, number 5, number 6. But then here, all of this is fine. But remember what I said with the quarters. Here we have 1 quarter. Here we move 3 quarters. Quarter multiplied by 3, exactly same story. Do this, multiply by 3, but we keep this 9 position or plus 9 pixels here. That's the only thing we maintain in its position. And here, minus 9. If I save that, refresh, and there we are. Now we have this, and this is truly custom made specifically for this item. If you have a third one, of course, you have to again recalculate that. So this is why this one is a bit more tricky, but this is really the only way so far I know how to do it, because I don't see any other option so far. And that's it. So this is basically for now, and it does look nice. So if you enjoyed this video and maybe you want to have like these tooltips showing all of them at the same time, in that case I'm going to recommend you this video here on how to show multiple datasets in the tooltip in Chartjs, which is really suitable for this specific item, because you can see here we have so many items that should be all grouped in a single tooltip showing all these values. So in that case, this is a video I'm going to recommend.